Well, thank you. It's certainly humbling to be with such a smart, thoughtful, and articulate group, and I really actually refer to the audience as much as the rest of the panel here. A lot of people have contributed, I know, in the room from seeing people at meetings on planning issues, and I think it's very important that we've all taken the time to be here tonight because something Susan said really resonated well with me. You know, without the partnerships, sustainability isn't possible. Without people who are on policy boards and on staff listening and asking to hear what your questions are, we can't be successful. And likewise, I think everyone hearing each other's conversation helps. Sustainability. That word gets bigger every time I hear it. It just seems to have all these implications, and I think I've gotten past worrying about agreeing on a definition with anybody or coming up with one that I think is best. I grew up on a farm, and I just kind of have to revert to, I'm just going to use common sense as best as I can. But the one thing I've learned is it's not one viewpoint, and we all, of course, approach things with our own personal perspectives, our own backgrounds, our own, training as we grew up, and I think it's fair to say most of us do some very sustainable things, and most of us, if we're pressed, will admit we do some pretty unsustainable things too. And some of that is just the lifestyle we choose, some of it's where we live, but in total, the role of the Planning Commission is to help apply that judgment, help apply that, if you will, policy background to set some guidance, some guidelines, and I firmly believe that if a planning commission focuses more on policy than on the actual nuts and bolts of the sites for at least half of the time, you're going to get much better site planning out in the world. If we focus on the policy, if the council is focused on policy, it's relatively easy for staff to interpret and make sure that good quality projects are coming forward. So in the big picture, the Planning Commission was very excited about this idea of trying to create a framework, an overarching. These 226 goals were very challenging. Going through that process, it was interesting to see all the redundancy that was there. That's good. That's good. We have a lot of crossover between the 25 or 26 master plan documents we have, and again, so many people in this room have helped us build those. We have some conflict within documents, between documents. What do we do about those? Maybe we don't have to do a lot about them. Something I saw years ago from the city of Austin was really help focus on that partnership, that listening. If a site doesn't have any of something but has a lot of something else, maybe that's meaningful. Their methodology at the time was essentially to have a matrix of scoring. So if you did really well in some of the environmental areas, but you didn't do so well on the energy efficiency areas, they still felt you met a minimum threshold. I like that idea of a blended perspective. There's so many things to consider. I don't think it'd ever be right for me to say, oh, I've thought about everything and I'm sure this is correct. There's always that doubt in your mind, but again, if we set good policy, I think that helps people with understanding the best way to go forward. And good policy begets good results. We feel like the citizen participation ordinance has been fantastic. We feel like 10 years of work on downtown master plans, components of master plans, things to increase vibrancy, things to encourage residents to live downtown, to help with that 30% increase. Those are all good for the city. I can't write a paper or do a study or tell you why that is, but I know seeing more people around downtown than when I was here 20 years ago when I first moved in, and I wasn't sure if 3 blocks was all we had or not. I finally realized I had found the downtown. It's great to see how much more vibrancy there is now. So to zoom down from that 30,000-foot policy level and a few of those examples, I'm going to go to a month ago. We saw a development proposal at 618 South Main, and one of the things that was nice about it was it didn't fit. They had to do some different things. They had to come through what's called a plan project, which means they wanted to do some things different than the regulations, and they had to offer up some things. What they offered up in the Allens Creek watershed, which is known for its flooding, as people know, there have been a lot of reports that to get all that water away, it'd cost $150 million plus. Well, what they're doing with a site that used to be 100% pervious, paved, or rooftop, all of that water is going to soak into the ground, and 0 of it goes into our stormwater system. That's great. They're proposing a specific energy efficiency measure. They've put it in their development agreement, the legal agreement, the binding agreement with the city, to do hot water heating on their roof. They're also shooting for that LEED gold, I believe, certification. It might be silver. regardless, that's also in the development agreement. And some wise person somewhere at city staff or the attorney's office thought of the idea of having a penalty clause in the development agreement, because those of you who might be familiar with LEED certification would know that without seeing the materials that go in and figuring out what gets recycled and what goes to appropriate landfills, you can't get certified for LEED until it's built. So there's no way to approve LEED. You have to certify it at the end of the process. So those things are going on. It's encouraging to see specific sites that are doing what we like. We can't control getting everything we like, but it's been great. And I'd say my one big eureka moment in looking at all of these various plans is, does anybody want to take a stab at how many times the word region or county is in our 226 goals? Anybody? I got 3. So last thing I would leave you with as we go to the Q&A is think about, if we're talking sustainability, can we talk within our city boundaries for everything, or are there some things where we need to broaden our horizons a little bit? Thank you very much.